Ohio State definitely has something to prove in their top 3 showdown with Oregon.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a hump day edition of Locked On Buckeyes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day here on Wednesday, October 9th in the year 2024. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. As I dig deeper into Ohio State's game against Oregon and start to think what's at stake for the Buckeyes, a question popped into my head. Does Ohio State have anything to prove in this game? Ohio State's undefeated, just like Oregon. They're both top 3 teams in the country. They have the respect of a lot of people around the country, but there is still something to prove. And Ohio State going to Eugene, Oregon, and getting a win in that hostile environment will prove they're not only contenders to win the Big Ten this year, but they're also contenders to win the national championship. And I think that's what Ohio State needs to have in their mind, is that realizing they still have more to prove. They played great ball this year. They're 5-0, undefeated, number 2 in the team in the land. And there are still people out there that doubt Ohio State. I recently heard Danny Cannell doing some searching on the YouTube and came across a clip of him on the Cover 3 podcast, and he said, who has Ohio State played this year? And I'm sitting here thinking, did you watch that Iowa game? Now, granted, Iowa didn't look really that great at all in that game, but that wasn't because Iowa was sad. That's because Ohio State's really, 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 really good. Cade McNamara's Cade McNamara. He did some good things in that game, but Ohio State's defense, especially just straight domination in the third quarter, that was all Ohio State. It wasn't because Iowa was a bad football team. It's because Ohio State's a really, really good one. But if you go to Eugene, Oregon, and you lose and you flop and you show up and don't play a full 4 quarters, then people are going to truly question if you're a true national championship contender, as they should. You can't go on the road in that environment, end up losing the game, and not expect people to question you, not expect people to question, man, can Will Howard get it done? You know, he got that Big 12 championship, but Big Ten ball is a little bit different. Oregon's real. Dan Lanning has some dogs out there in Eugene. People are going to question Ryan Day. Can he beat? Is this another team he can't beat? Lost 3 times to Michigan. All of a sudden, you lose 2 times to Oregon. People are truly going to start throwing questions out there. Chip Kelly going to Ohio State. Is he dialing up the right things? Is he just kind of getting confused on the road? Did he get just caught in the pageantry of his old stomping grounds? People are going to throw all these things out here, which is why Ohio State simply has to go out there and win. Another reason they need to go out there and win is because they play in the game. Now, if you throw out all the narratives and just say, forget all the narratives, forget everything that's happened previously, forget even the 2021 game where Ohio State got embarrassed at times by C.J. Verdell and the rest of the Oregon Ducks team. Still, that quarterback, his name escapes me. That may have been the game of his life because homie was not that good at all. We watched the film going into that game, and I'm sitting here thinking, Ohio State can control that dude. I mean, I believe, was Pete Werner on that team? There were some other good linebackers. I forget if Pete Werner was there or not, but there were good backers decent backers. I think Werner may have been gone. It was Eichenberg and Chambers, and you kind of understand the 2021 linebacker situation was not that great at all. It was actually pretty embarrassing with how those guys played. But I definitely thought they had some guys that could get the job done, but they couldn't. This year, however, I do believe from Will Howard to the offensive line to the defensive line, everybody can get the job done. And as I was talking to Spencer McLaughlin recently, and this will come up on a show later on this week, he put out a great stat. The last 3 times Ohio State and Oregon played, the team that won the rushing battle is 3-0. Let that sink in for you. Because I do believe we're going to talk a lot about the O-line and D-line the rest of the week, because that's where it starts. Yes, it's very elementary, or it's a one-on-one level of football, but that's basically where this game is going to be won. Oregon had over 250 rushing yards the last time these two teams played. And it was really kind of shocking and alarming as I look back at those numbers. I remember play after play after play where Ohio State couldn't set the edge. They weren't wrapping up when tackling. They weren't squeezing and going to the ground. They weren't doing the elementary basic things of football, which led to Oregon winning the game. Keep this in mind too. Oregon's best player wasn't on the field that day either. So wasn't that Oregon was just getting a lot of things done offensively. Kayvon Thibodeau, I believe, was a future first-round pick. He wasn't on the field to play. So you lost your best player overall who was on the defense, and then you got some special play on offense. That was a formula that Oregon used to run all over and embarrass the Buckeyes on that day. What Ohio State must do absolutely, is not only win the battle in the trenches, but, man, just follow the game plan. Because we should all have full trust in Jim Knowles and Chip Kelly and Ryan Day to dial up the right plays all game long. It does not matter which buttons they're trying to push. They're going to push the right buttons. And I do expect Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles to pull some tricks out of their bag that they had not shown all year long. You might get a little more aggressive nature, some more blitzing from the Buckeyes linebackers. May you figure out what linebacker is going to spy Dylan Gabriel. We're going to talk more about that later in the show. Maybe it's going to be some things offensively. Is this a game where we get a true two-back set? May it be in shotgun. May it be Howard under center, and you get the old school two split backfield. Which, hey, if you get a split backfield with Judkins and Henderson, watch out. I mean, literally just watch out, because you are not going to know what's going to happen next. We can play the video game, and there are various plays that you can run on the game that are out of split back sets. But I remember back when I first started playing football, didn't start playing football until 7th grade. And I'm sitting here thinking, you got a fullback and a running back in a split backfield. There's a lot of creativity you can handle. We weren't that creative back there at Belzer Middle School. We weren't that at all. And then at LC across the street from Belzer, we got a little creative, but it really wasn't super creative like Chip Kelly might get. But if you come out there at a split backfield with Judkins and Henderson, it's not so much thunder and lightning or smash and dash. It's pick your poison. Which one do you want? Do you want number 1 or do you want number 32? Do you want to fake to 32 and to get the ball to number 1? Do you want 32 to motion now and then come back in and do a jet sweep? What do you want? Because you got so many opportunities and so many options. And with using all the options, it goes back to Ohio State having something to prove. Yeah, they have won a couple conference games so far, but this is one. If you win this game, this might be a rematch in the Big Ten championship game. If you lose this game, you might not make it to the Big Ten championship game. You can lose this game and still make the playoff, but you're not setting yourself up in the ways that you want to set yourself up in the CFP down the road. Ohio State definitely has something to prove. They can prove, hey, they're not only a contender to win the conference, but that they're a true contender to win the national championship as well. Who are the most important non-quarterbacks in Ohio State's primetime game with Oregon on Saturday night? I'll tell you next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Once again, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Those of you that are trying to put money on the Ohio State-Oregon game, right now I'm leaning Ohio State minus 3.5. Line's probably going to move a little bit before kickoff. Then I'm also currently going with the under at 52.5. You could follow my instructions or maybe not, but right now it's where I'm leaning, and I'm known to make people some money every now and then. All the action goes down on the FanDuel Sportsbook app and at FanDuel.com. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. Who are the most important non-quarterbacks in this game on Saturday night? I say non-quarterbacks because, of course, there's multiple quarterbacks playing in this game. But ultimately, I do think it goes back to Ohio State having players at every level. The trenches, the backers, the tight ends, skill positions, secondary, all over the field. Ohio State has great players littered on both sides of the ball that are great. But who are the most important in this game? I'm not just going to pick one. This is something I picked up from another, I believe it was cleveland.com on the YouTube, where they went around the horn, the three guys there, picking the guy who they think is the most important non-quarterback. They picked one apiece. I'm going to go every level and trying to pick a couple of guys to just kind of get a little bit of importance about who are important players that I am watching in this game. The first guys go on the offensive line, Josh Simmons. Because ultimately, right now, I could have picked Simmons and Fryer, but I think this is a Simmons type of game. On the left side of the line, you got that blind side. Left side, strong side, like I remember the Titans. He is going to be very, very pivotal when you have a very athletic, a very aggressive defensive front that Oregon has. He's going to be very, very pivotal to make sure that backside is strong, is firm. Think back to some of the games that Ohio State played. Think back to the Aiden Hutchinson game. Many of you don't want to, but what did he do? He was a game wrecker. He wrecked that game. Think about Chase Young and the Bosas and the elite guys that Ohio State had at defensive end. What do? They wrecked games. Well, what is the one thing that can stop a game wrecker? A fierce wall on the offensive line. And I think Simmons has played a lot better. He has definitely grown this year. And he is a guy that I'm thinking, hey, on the offensive line, he's very, very important. I wasn't going to pick Seth McLaughlin because he was a player to watch last week. I could have done it back-to-back weeks. And I do think the center position is very, very important. But for this one, I'm going with Josh Simmons. Next, let's go further back. I'm looking at the running backs. I can't just pick one. In the running back room, Henderson and Judkins are key. Because I mentioned it earlier in the show. The team that wins a rushing battle wins this game. Oregon won the battle in 2021. Ohio State won it in the national championship in the 2014 season. Ohio State won it in the Rose Bowl. I believe it was a 09 or 2010 season. Forget what year it was, but Ohio State won that battle. So in this game, it's not only the guys up front doing their job, but if Henderson and Judkins just run like they have been, run like madmen, run like they are not soft batch cookies, because that's what Carlos Lachlan says. He don't want to coach. He don't want no soft batch cookies in his room. And if he continues to if they continue to follow his footsteps and follow his lead, y'all, they're going to be A-okay. I do have full faith in Judkins and Henderson to be able to go on the road in a hostile environment and get the job done. They got a great coach leading them in Carlos Lachlan, and the head coach Ryan Day has full trust in those two guys to get the job done. Run physical, run hard, run and make it your best game you ever played. But I believe those two guys are the type of runners that they can be a little creative, and they don't have to be guys just between the tackles or guys just outside. They can mix it up and just shake and bake, run you right over, and get the job done. I firmly believe and have 100% trust that Judkins and Henderson are the right backs to go to Eugene, Oregon, and to lead the Buckeyes rushing attack. Last but not least, is not a player. It's still somebody on the offensive side of the ball. Chip Kelly. Because Chip Kelly has done almost everything right. We've questioned a few of the calls that he's made recently. But as we get closer to kickoff, I am wondering and just kind of asking myself, what else is out there that he can do? Unbalanced line. An unbalanced line is one of those things that Chip Kelly can pull out with the tight ends that Ohio State has and the athletic O-line that they have, more athletic than I expected for this year. If you roll out there with an unbalanced line and make the opposing defense, make Oregon line up in a different way and really confuse them with the look, watch out. Something else that Chip Kelly might throw at Oregon. Let's go quickly to the other side of the ball, because I can't stay all the time in the offense like I want, because the guys on the defense, they're very, 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 very important. First guy on my list is go to the front of the trenches like we did with the offense. Tyleik Williams. We saw how things got so much better when he returned to the field against Michigan State. Missed that game against turned the game against Iowa, missed that game against Michigan State, and where he was missing time, and even at Michigan State game, it was more that he could have played in an emergency. They didn't need him to, but you easily saw his presence was missed. There was a lot of traffic up the middle that he would have clogged up, but he wasn't there. Now, in a game like this, Dylan Gabriel wants to move around a little bit. And he wants to get outside. If Tyleik Williams can get a little pressure quickly into the backfield and disrupt the timing of Dylan Gabriel, who doesn't have the strongest arm, that is a formula that Jim knows wants to just push that button over and over and over and over again. Just repeatedly push that button to see what happens. And then when he pushes that button, I think what we're going to see is a result that we're all going to love. Let's go back a little bit because this is one guy a couple games ago was on the stock down portion of the show. He's not on the stock down portion of the show right now. Stock up, stock down is coming up later in the show, little stock watch in Oregon week. Sonny Styles played a phenomenal game. And I believe Ohio State in this game named multiple defensive players of the game. For the offense, I believe it was Emeka solely. He had that thing, 3 receiving touchdowns, a career high for him. I believe, 9 catches, 8 or 9 catches. I mean, he was just dialed in, man. And that boy was dancing in the end zone because he was just having so much fun and they couldn't stop him. Sonny Styles in this game was one of the guys that was one of the defensive players of the game for Ohio State in the win over Iowa, but also was taking steps in the right direction. I've been asking myself and wondering what player from Ohio State is going to spy Dylan Gabriel. Is it going to be Cody Simon? I don't think that would be right. Will it be Arvell Reese? I don't have full confidence in that. I don't think it brings CJ Hicks off the bench for this role. Now, if you're saying blitz all day and all night, number 11 is your guy. I don't think number 11 is a guy to spy Dylan Gabriel. But I think Sonny Styles can do it. I think he's athletic enough. I think he has the height. I think he has the brain and the smarts to spy a smart quarterback like Dylan Gabriel. Also, his former position of him playing safety a year ago, that's going to come in handy. And having that experience of knowing how to think like a safety, but now also learning and thinking like a linebacker, I think that's going to be a recipe for disaster for Oregon. Last but not least, Jordan Hancock. A guy in the nickel that is great in the run game, stopping the run. If you can keep Sonny Styles and Jordan Hancock on the field all game long, let's say they come off the field maybe for 5 plays, if that long, that's it. I mean, this is the defense that Ohio State expected to roll out there with. Cody Simon, Styles, and Hancock. Now, Hancock, he's not going to be as physical as other linebackers, but he's pretty physical, and he's that nickel corner that is very versatile. I don't think they need to bump him outside the outside corner for any reason this week, but they could if he needed him to. But I am looking for Jordan Hancock to have a phenomenal game. May he be the guy that gets an interception this weekend, because I do think this is one of those games where Ohio State's going to force turnovers in crucial parts of the game. Hancock has been there. I don't know if it was a Rutgers game or a Nebraska game recently that he got a pick six, took that ball, 80 or 90 yards all the way to the house, made a house call. I think this is one of those games where you might get that same result from him. Late in the game, Oregon's driving, trying to take the lead late in the game, or Oregon's driving, trying to make that margin a little bit smaller. Next thing you know, Hancock, interception. Oh, house call, game over. He scored a touchdown. I think we're looking at a situation like that because Hancock, I do expect him to have a big game this weekend. I also expect a few things from our stock watch this week to really play big and be big this weekend as well. I'll dive into the incomplete stock watch next. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Y'all, Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I love places that make buying tickets easy. Give you a little picture of panoramic view from your seat. They provide you with the lowest price guarantee and also provide you with ticket coverage as well. Game Time, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. I like it. I love it. I want some more of it, and I highly encourage you to go to Game Time to buy tickets to your favorite live events and to take the guesswork out of buying tickets You can do it with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Y'all, it's game time. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. Stock up, stock down. It's that time of the week to dive into our stock watch. We always start with the positive, especially when the Buckeyes are undefeated. Stock up on the Buckeyes' third quarter domination. We detailed it earlier in the week, I believe, on the Monday pod, but I'll relay it again. Ohio State has just been straight savages in the third quarter, coming out of the locker room at the end of before the start of the second half. Ohio State makes the proper adjustments. They work quickly on the field, and it's game over. I mean, literally, no team they play this year has been able to get any type of traction at all in the third quarter. I believe they've only allowed 3 points in 5 third quarters at all this season. In every game they played, all 5. The team has rolled out their backup quarterback because the game is over because Ohio State straight dominates. Keep that in mind on Saturday. I made a comment on the Big Ten squad show that comes out on Thursday in regards to what team I am leaning towards picking. And I make a comment about how Ohio State plays in the third quarter in regards to which way I am leaning in this game. I'll tell you now, I'm leaning towards Ohio State winning. Leaning there. I ain't picked it yet, but I'm leaning there because of that third quarter, man. They haven't executed well, great all game long, but in that third quarter, it's game over. Couple of Big Ten teams got a lot more talent than the teams that Ohio State played. The non-conference slate, they got talent, but it's not good enough. Stock up on game day being in attendance, man. Been waiting all year, and this kind of slipped my mind on Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. I think I saw it on Monday. Even sent it to one of my friends saying I didn't realize. I kind of forgot that game day was coming to town. It just skipped over me. I normally am all scrolling on the timeline on the Twitter, and okay, cool, game day's coming, great. I don't know how this one slipped when it's Ohio State stuff all over my feed, but it did. I'm glad. Herb Street, McAfee. I hope Corso comes. I don't think Corso went to game day in California. That's a cross-country trip, especially when it's stupid early in the morning when he's a guy that lives in Florida. But you got Reese Davis. No one really likes Desmond Howard. I think he's a good guy. So it takes bad. Some of his opinions are even worse. I don't think he's a horrible human, though. I don't think that. But I'm really looking forward to this, man. Game day, it's the pregame show of all pregame shows. Yeah, I know Big Noon's a thing. CBS Sports has their pregame show in the studio prior to their Big Ten game. Come on, man. Ain't no Big Ten show like Game Day. What's the 30-year run that they're on? Not stopping anytime soon. You bring Pat McAfee on, and you hope it's a long-term connection and relationship that McAfee has with Game Day. Herb Street has been there for 25, 26 years. Hope he's there for another 25 years because he's just that dude. I hope, and it's game day, man. It's just game day. Some things you got to explain for people to understand. Not when you say college game day is coming to town. It wouldn't shock me if game day comes to Ohio State for the game against Michigan, and if game day goes to Happy Valley for Ohio State's road test with Penn State. Side note, they're not contractually obligated to go there. They're not covering, they don't have a contract with the Big Ten. I do think they're contractually obligated to try to find a way to go to the big games. I do think that. So it's not so much they don't cover Big Ten games at all until the playoff. That don't matter to me. What does matter is this the biggest game of the year so far? Absolutely. Could they have picked Red River? Could they have picked LSU Ole Miss? Yes. They chose the biggest game of the year. It's been circled all year long. I'm glad they made the right choice. Also, stock up on Emeka Buka, man. 3 receiving touchdowns, a career high for him, joining a very exclusive Ohio State group. And when you out there doing it, man, you're doing your dance, happy as can be because they couldn't stop you at all. And Iowa's a good defense. For as many flaws that Iowa has on offense, they don't have them that many on defense. And they also didn't have an answer for Emeka Buka. Then you added Jeremiah Smith, number 4, just being that dude. And you added Judkins and Henderson and Will Howard running the ball a little bit more. really has made it very, very, very hard for Ohio State to Ohio State made it very hard for Iowa. I keep wanting to say Oregon again. For Iowa to really slow them down. Stock down on the Ole Miss at LSU game being at the same time as Ohio State and Oregon. Now, the difference between this game and I believe it was, let me get this correct, Alabama, Georgia was the same day as Ohio State, Michigan State, but Ohio State, Michigan State was on the Peacock. So you weren't able to do a dual screen or a quad screen at all. You weren't able to do that because the Peacock is not available on the YouTube TV. That's a Peacock app only, exclusively on that app. So you couldn't do the picture-in-picture or the quad view there on the TV. Now, this weekend, you could do the quad view. You could do the dual view. You could have multiple games on your screen at the same time to watch Ohio State beat Oregon. And then to see Ole Miss go on the road to play LSU. LSU night games are different, man. Absolutely different. And I would love to watch LSU at night. I do think LSU has a chance to win this game. Ole Miss is playing good ball right now. But it's LSU at night. It's just one of those times. We've been circling this date all year long. And it's here. It's just unfortunate that another one of those big games we circle. A lot of Ohio State fans are not going to want to put multiple screens up. You just want to solely watch the Buckeyes, and I get that. Also, stock down a big noon not going to Eugene, Oregon. I understand they normally go to the game that is the big noon game for them. Normally, because I do believe that Colorado game a few weeks ago, I forget, was Colorado, Nebraska, maybe. Colorado somebody. That was a 4 o'clock kickoff, but big noon was there in Boulder for that game. Now, it was on their network, so maybe they're saying, well, it may not be our 12 noon game where it's big noon kickoff and then big noon Saturday and all that stuff, but it's on our network. So we only go to games that are on our network and it may not be the 12 o'clock noon kick. Okay, cool, I get that. You can also make exceptions to the rule. This is one of those times I think Fox could have made an exception. Sent your pregame show out there to Eugene, Oregon. I know it's early. It's okay. It's okay. Go out there to Eugene, Oregon. Make it happen because this game is that big. It's possible that big noon will be at, they probably will be at Ohio State, Penn State. I really hope they don't make this a 12 noon kickoff. Make it at least 3:30 or 4. At least get a little bit of the nighttime feel in that game. A little bit. Help us out because us fans, those diehard fans, most of us want that game at night because it should always be the whiteout or the blackout. Whiteout in Happy Valley, blackout the shoe in Columbus. Either one of those, it should always be that. I don't think it's going to, I think it's a stripe off this year at Penn State. It's also expected that game's a 12 noon kickoff. I don't call the shots. We just kind of follow the shots as they're called. And Fox has a big thing going with their big noon pregame show and big noon Saturday. And I think, I know Ohio State, Penn State is a big reason why. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On Big Ten podcast. Craig Sheeman puts the Big Ten first. When everyone else overlooks it, find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. Buckeye fans, we're only a few days away from the top 3 showdown we have been waiting for all year long. I can't wait. And stay tapped into this show all week long to preview the Buckeyes' big game on Saturday night.